Hi, welcome to the John Gaunt live show. If you're listening on the podcast, great, but why don't you try it on YouTube as well? It's a whole different dimension, and you don't even need to have widescreen. Let's start today's broadcast. We're going to talk about Vance. We're going to talk about the Ukraine. We're going to talk about Starmer. But let's start with a question. And don't forget, you can put your comments up. Why do politicians of all parties, all of them, and all the mainstream newspapers and the mainstream commentators, and of course the BBC, why do they love Zelensky, whatever his bloody name is, and indeed Trump, J.D. Vance, and even Vladimir Putin? I'll tell you why. Because it's allowed us all, and all of us have done this, to forget the following: Southport and the mistakes made there. The whole prevent strategy doesn't work. That's why young girls are getting slaughtered at a dance class. The Rotherham, Rochdale rape gangs all over the country. The Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. It's all been forgotten. It's nowhere near the front page. It's not even in the papers. The illegal immigrants getting into the country, coming over on those little life rafts, forgotten about. Because we're too busy slagging off J.D. Vance and treating Donald Trump as if he's the devil incarnate. And when I say us, I do mean all of us. Because the papers lead the way, even though hardly anyone reads them anymore. The BBC come in heavy-handed as well. I mean, did you see Laura Gunsberg on Sunday? The most biased TV ever. Then she wrote an article, which was on the BBC website, where she said, in effect, what happened in the White House, in the Oval Room, with Zelensky was wrong. It was an affront and all the rest of this stuff. Hold on, love. You're meant to be impartial. Knife crime, that's been forgotten. MPs beating up their constituents in the street, forgotten. The fact that he didn't go to prison, forgotten. Prisoners being let out of prison early, forgotten. The crumbling economy, forgotten. Rising unemployment, forgotten. Why? Why has all this happened? Why has it all been forgotten? Because evidently Vladimir Putin wants to invade the West. Why would he want to take over this country? That's a joke, by the way. But it's all been forgotten. And also because there's a new punchbag in town, Donald Trump, and now J.D. Vance. And why is there a new punchbag? Because the mainstream media, the political establishment, and I mean MPs in all parties, and those snivelling little shits, you know, the sort of people like Ian Dale on LBC, John Sopel in the BBC today, they hate Trump. They have a visceral hatred for Trump. But he won. And unlike Joe Biden, there's no debate about whether he cheated to win. He won. He won by a massive majority. And what's he doing wrong now? He's just doing what he said he was going to do. He's doing what it says on the can. He wants to make America great again, and he's putting America first. I'll tell you the other thing that's been forgotten is that Starmer's useless. He's the worst MPM we've had. Suddenly, he's a cross between Jesus Christ, Nelson Mandela, and Steve Biko. He's suddenly a hero. Why? He got together a meeting of a few, 16, 15 of them EU people. The other one was Trudeau, who's a spent force from Canada. He had a meeting with them all in London about what can we do now that Trump's been nasty to our hero. And what they decided was they could have a coalition of the willing, which roughly translated means us and France. And then Starmer goes in Parliament yesterday and said, we've got to lead from the front. Well, forgive me, Sir Keir Starmer. Why should Britain lead from the front? What about Germany? They're a lot closer to Ukraine. If the Russians are coming, they're going to go into Germany. All of my ancestors were in the Rhine force. They weren't stationed here. They were stationed there. And Germany have said no. In fact, they've said 9. They've said no to being part of this troops on the ground. And then, so what did they achieve at that meeting? There was all this, even GB News got excited. Oh, this big meeting, all these people who have done jack all for 3 years are having a meeting. And the meeting basically culminated them saying, yes, Putin's horrible, Trump's horrible, J.D. Vance, oh, horrid. But what we're going to do, we'll get Zelensky to meet the king. Why? So they've politicized the king. And then what we'll do is we'll have this coalition of the useless, basically, because that's what it is. But we still need the Americans to give us the security backstop. So after all this talking, after all this slagging off of Trump, after all this forgetting about all the other issues that matter, guess what? It's going to rely on Donald J. Trump saying, okay, we'll get the mineral deal sorted and on we go. But here's the rub. The mineral deal is there. He could go back tomorrow and sign it, and he knows it. He doesn't want to sign it. And everyone has painted him as if he's the hero. Trump and Vance are the pantomime villains. No, he was just trying to get more. Because what he wants, he wants Ukraine to be in NATO. Then if he ever gets attacked by Russia, we have to defend. You know, you attack one NATO country, you're attacking them all. That's his game. I don't blame him. I'd probably do the same if I was wearing my army fatigues and a sweaty old jumper. I'd probably do the same. But we can't fall for this. It's a trap. And Trump has said, no, I'm not doing that. Sign the deal that you've agreed to backstage and we can all move forward. He wouldn't do it. And so then they laid into him. And I think, and I'm sorry, John Sopel, Ian Dale, and all you BBC propaganda Lord whores, or just whores, media whores, HAWS, of course, don't get me done for that. You've all just agreed and you're all going along with it. And the tabloids the same. I tell you what, before we know it, our lads will be in Ukraine and then they'll be coming back to Bryce Norton. I was down there this weekend in the body bags. Starmer will have blood on his hands. For what? There doesn't need to be a war. There can be an agreement. Get the mineral agreement sorted out. Trump then puts in American people. Then I agree with Trump and Vance. They're not going to attack Ukraine in case they kill Americans because they know what would happen then, because there's no two ways about it. There's a new sheriff in town. I'm coming to your comments in a moment. Do you see the logic of what I'm saying? There's a deal on the table. Sign it. Get it done. Then let's see what Trump can achieve with Putin. But don't let Zelensky go to the first negotiation. He's a hothead. Let Trump and Vance sort it out. Then bring him in. And then he gets the peace he wants and he'll get the security he wants. What he won't get, which is why he's causing and having a temper tantrum, he won't get NATO. And I don't think he should get NATO either. And I also don't think Putin is about to invade. Now, let me just say one thing. Putin, it was wrong, completely wrong to invade Ukraine. But unfortunately, that's happened. And do you know why it happened? Because that bunch of twits, spelled TWATS, they didn't do anything for so long. They effectively, when people have been saying to me, oh, you're an appeaser, you're going to let Putin win. No, I'm not. Or Trump's an appeaser. No, he's not. I'll tell you who the appeasers are. It's the European Union who have done nothing, not just for 3 years, but for years and years and years. They've allowed Ukraine to happen. They've allowed Putin to come in. And if you don't believe me, why does that say, what's her name? Useless Van Leyen. That's good, isn't it? Well, how come today she's just approved, I think, 800 million or billion or something more spending for EU countries to spend on defence? What have they been spending our money on? I'll tell you what it is. Posh lunches, stupid things, woke initiatives. The EU is the biggest waste of money. Thank God we're out of it. But they're the appeasers because they should have stood up, united. They could have had their lovely little meeting in Lancaster House years ago. And they could have said, we're going to take on Putin. This idea now, I was reading the papers online today. Some of the newspapers and columnists are saying, oh, yeah, we should side with the EU and Europe will defeat Putin. Had some woman, I said, so what's your solution? She said, you've got to talk. I said, hold on a minute. How can you talk to Putin? You lot are telling me we can't do that. Even the most powerful man in the world can't speak to the other most powerful man in the world, according to your logic. It's typical lefties. They love moaning. And you John Sopels, you Ian, I know he's a conservative, you Ian Dales, and all the others. So, Julia Hartley, half-pissed brewer, whatever her name is, she is saying anybody who is against what Starmer's trying to do isn't a patriot. When I need lessons in being a patriot from you, Julia, I'll ask. Until then, shut up. Shut up. Because our boys are patriots. I'm a patriot, but there's no point. I don't want our lads to go to a war and die. I'm going to admit something now. The Gulf War, I fell for it. Hook, line and sinker. I was on BBC London at the time, had the highest rated show on there. And that 45 minutes from disaster, the Alistair Campbell bullshit document, I fell for it. And I supported the war. I was wrong. Completely wrong. George Galloway told me I was wrong at the time, and he was correct. But I tell you, as the Who would say, I'm never going to get conned again. And that's what's happening here. They're trying to con us. They're trying to con us into a war. But it won't be their kids dying in the trenches of the Ukraine. It'll be yours and mine and everybody else's. And I don't think we are all behind Ukraine, Sir Keir. Did you hear that line he came out with? The whole of Britain. He said, look, everyone's cheering outside Downing Street. They were probably all Ukrainians who we've given refuge to, which, by the way, I agree with. The country does not want war, but the tabloids, newspapers do. And I used to be a member of Her Majesty's gutter press, and I was proud to be. But I'd said some things then which I shouldn't have said on reflection. And I certainly don't think now they should be whipping up this frenzy. And as I say, it isn't just a frenzy against Putin, although I don't think Putin is going to attack us. However, it's an attack on Vance and on Trump. They won the election, fair and square. What Trump wants to do in America, I agree with him. Look after Americans first. American jobs for American people. American defense first. Why should America be paying all of our defense bills, or the majority of it? Those people in the EU, Angela Van Useless Van Leyen, whatever her name is, now she says she'll pay. Well, she wouldn't have paid before Trump got tough. And this is why all this hysteria on X and on Facebook and in the papers and on the BBC and on all the news channels is ultimately BS. Because the only way there's going to be a deal and war avoided is when there's a meeting between Trump and Putin. That's how it's going to be solved. It isn't going to be solved in any other way. No, certainly not by a load of yampy European politicians. And as proved, none of them with a backbone. Now, let's give France their due. They've said, yeah, we'll come in with you, Keir. Yeah, they're coming into the fight. Italy, no. Germany, no. Canada, I think there's a suggestion today that Trudeau might offer us something. That'd be great, won't it, eh? The only thing Canadians are good at fighting at is ice hockey. Huh? The Canadians, it's nonsense. So they have their big meeting, slap-up meal, and they decide they're going to take on Putin. Oh, yeah. And not only that, they'll have an afters of taking on Trump. And then J.D. Vance said today or overnight, basically, America's going to sort it. Leave it to us. It's the mineral deal that's going to pull it off. I agree with him. Rather than a random country having a fight is what he said, right? Something like that. The papers looking for a story, looking for that Falklands moment, yeah? And basically said he was slagging off our heroes from the Falklands and the Gulf. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He would have said France and England if that was the case, or Britain. He didn't say that. He might have been clumsy, what he said. But this is what they're trying to do. I know how the papers work. The papers will have all been into little meetings with Sir Keir Starmer. And he's going, I'm giving you a briefing. Giving you a briefing. There's the briefing. What's the briefing? Give them our line. Where's the questioning about whether we want a war with them? Where's the question about whether we hate Trump? Where's the question about is BBC right to call him Trump? Well, it's not, is it? Do you see where I'm coming from? But they're so close together. I've been telling you this for years. literally sleeping together. I see the fat slug, what's his name? Adam Bolton. He's come out. Now, remember, he left his wife to have a relationship with Angie Hunter, the woman who was Tony Blair's gatekeeper, so to speak. They're all intertwined. Yeah? And their view is it's this kind of soft liberal, uber liberal metropolitan view. Oh, war is horrible. I bet their theme song would be "War is Horrid" or whatever it is by Boy George. Anyway, just garbage. But they're pushing us into it, and it won't be their blood. The blood of our lads, the working classes, will be on the hands of Sir Keir Starmer. And if he's so convinced, why hasn't he sent his lad? And I'm telling you, the big distraction for Starmer is he's now being called a world statesman. A world statesman amongst that bunch of no-marks? I don't think so, right? However, that's what's happening, and we're forgetting the domestic mess-up he's made. And to cap it all, he's looking, I think, and I might be wrong, you can tell me, come into your comments in a moment, promise you, I think he's looking for that Falklands moment. I'm a big admirer of Margaret Thatcher and what she did for the property-owning democracy of this country. She did some things wrong, like getting rid of the poll tax. She should have kept that because that was good. But also she did other things wrong. But her premier, I'm old enough to remember, her premiership was saved by the Falklands War. I watched it on telly. I was at uni at the time. University, not uni. And I remember Brian Hannahan. We counted them out, we counted them in when the planes took off and the rest of it. But here's the bottom line. If she hadn't sunk the Belgrano and won the Falklands, she would have been out on her ear. People hated her. Absolutely hated her. And people hated our country as well. There's a flavour of that at the moment. Saved by the Falklands. Whether you like it or not, that's the truth. Look at the history books. I think Starmer's looking for that because he's already talking about being a patriot. He's already talking about wrapping ourselves in the flag. But he won't be getting wrapped in the flag, nor will his son. They won't be on the front line, will they? No way, Jose. Oh, nor the Spanish. So do you see where I'm coming from? We're being conned. Right, that's my views. 17 minutes of my rant. Now let's hear your views. Let's get started. If you disagree with me, you probably get on a bit quicker. Welcome. It's the John Gaunt Show. It's on John Gaunt TV on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. Look at my website, johngaunt.com. What else can you look at? Anything you fancy. My Twitter and my X and the rest of it. Also, as well, of course, if you want to support me, like all these people have down here, please go to www.buymeacoffee.com. Anything from $5 upwards will allow this counter-narrative to carry on. And if you're enjoying the video or hating it, press the like button on whatever you're watching it on, because that all helps the algorithm so more people can find the show. I think I'm the only person in Britain, well, probably George Galloway as well, who's saying this is nonsense. What's going on is nonsense. Because in the end, Trump is going to do the deal. It isn't going to be done by anybody in Europe, and certainly not by Sir Keir Starmer. He wants it to be, because he wants you to forget Southport. He wants you to forget what's been going on in this country since he's been in power and before. And the whole political class are guilty of that, the way they've ignored you. But now they want your sons to go and spill their blood in the trenches of Ukraine. I say, no way, Sir Keir. Right, where are we? Maria Oakman says hello on Facebook. Hi. BBC Impartial, she says, you do make me laugh, John. Yeah, thank you. Then she says, I can't wait to hear the big announcement tonight by Trump. Apparently, Caroline Levitt has said it's must-watch TV. Bring it on. I'll tell you what he is announcing. He's basically stopped all aid to the Ukraine. He says it's temporary. I agree with him. I should imagine he's sitting there thinking, hold on a minute. I was going to do this mineral deal, and that was going to bring peace. And now all these idiots like John Sopel are messing it up for me. And Sir Keir. No way. He's also turned around now and said we're probably going to get trade sanctions against us. And people are saying he's a bully. Well, if you hold all the cards, you can tend to be a bit of a bully. You want him to sort it out. As he says, America has been paying for us for years. It's like having a mate who never buys a round, isn't it? Lisa Eddington, let's mention how biased the Speaker is in the House of Commons. Forgotten about, love. Nigel Farage asked a very important question of how many troops is Keir Starmer sending to Ukraine. He was laughed at and shouted down, WTF. Lisa, I agree with you. It was a fair and legitimate question. And again, he said, you'd be kowtowing to Putin. It doesn't make you a Putin supporter to say, why are we sending our boys there? Does it? It doesn't. It doesn't. And also, I don't think I'm not being patriotic saying, I don't think Putin's going to invade us. I don't think he is. Because he knows he'll get his bottom smacked very severely by Trump. Oh, and all this other thing. Oh, Trump is in the pocket of Putin. Just garbage. He got the biggest majority ever. He owns the House. Let him get on with his job. This is the lefties' revenge. They won't win because in a minute they'll fall out with each other. As usual, the call-up papers are on the way, says Peter Stewart. Peter, thank you for joining us on YouTube. I agree with you. Conscription's coming down the line. But I think he's going to get a nasty surprise if he tries to spring that on the people of Britain. It's not even like the Falklands. People were happy to go to Falklands. They were proud, and they came back with a sense of pride. Yeah? It's just not the same. Maria says, wonder if Trump takes up Putin's offer of minerals. Wouldn't that be funny? Yes. Lisa Eddington, completely agree with Trump's deal, having US people on the ground mining minerals because Putin will never invade Ukraine again for fear of retaliation. Absolutely. It's better not to tell you what I think of our useless PM as I keep getting thrown in Facebook jail. Right, let's have some other people. Carl Dubor. If you let bullies win, you have to watch your back forever. Oh, here we go. If Putin wins, we will have to watch our backs, especially as America now has a dangerous dictator. Carl, have you had your medication? What a ridiculous tweet that is. Let's go through it. If you let bullies win, I don't think anyone's thinking that Putin's going to win. I don't think it's binary like win or lose. Trump wants to do a peace deal. You don't even know what his peace deal is yet because Zelensky has not allowed that to happen. He's had his little temper tantrum and all the Europeans are wiping his bottom and presenting. They're now talking about giving him the Nobel Peace Prize. How ridiculous is that? So that's the first bit of your nonsense. If Putin wins, we'll have to watch our backs. Why? Especially as America now has a dangerous dictator. Carl, do you know what the definition of a dictator is? I don't think it's the president of the United States. You've just managed to insult 365 million election votes in the USA. I think you're disgusting, Carl. Oh, I think you're thick, really. But anyway, that's up to you. Oh, he goes on to say, Lisa, that's a throwaway comment that doesn't add anything to the debate. Oh, because Lisa's come back on Facebook and says, you're talking utter BS, Carl. Well, I agree with Lisa. You are. John, you are 100% correct. This is on Twitter, X, Gary Reeves. So refreshing to hear after all the mainstream media have turned on Trump. Keep up the great work, mate. I will. But if you think it's that good, please send me a donation. Buymeacoffee.com if you can. Carl Dubars, he's obviously some kind of masochist. He just wants a kick in because he's come back on. Trump is a bully. End of. And who do you work for, Carl? Are you a social worker? Anyway, listen, let's have some more comments. Let's have some serious comments now, please, about what you're thinking and your views on this. I've laid my mind down on the line. I believe the attack on Trump is a distraction. They want this to happen. They want it to drag on. I just think it's crazy. Those Europeans, why don't they just tell Zelensky, you get yourself back to DC, mate, apologize to the president and sort out the mineral deal. Let the president work on Putin and then we can all sleep well in our beds. Why doesn't he want to do the deal? Why is he going through this? And now, look at what they've opened up now. The hornet's nest they've opened up now. Now we're going to get trade sanctions against us. What is going on? And people are saying Starmer's a great statesman. Huh? He can't control our own borders, let alone protect the border for the Ukraine. And then, I don't want to be rude, Sir Keir, we can't afford a war. I know you're taking that money that you seized from the Russians. What if part of Putin's deal is you can't do that? We'll end up paying again, won't we? This is just An absolute nonsense. And his definition of I'm just reading this off my phone, so I wrote it earlier. His definition of a coalition of the willing, I'll tell you what it means. It means British and French troops being put in danger, but not the Germans, the Italians, or the Canadians. His plan is a complete non-starter. We need the United States and we need Donald Trump. Get real. Do you agree? If you disagree, tell me now. And this is the other one. I did this one over the weekend. Why should we, the UK, lead from the front? What about Germany? This warmonger, I think we should now start calling him No Fear Keir, because he's obviously got balls of steel, isn't he? He's the big main man, yeah? He's dragging us into a war with Russia to save his miserable, lousy, right? This is my view, lousy government. He's trying to pull off the Falklands Maggie moment. He must be stopped. And that's my view. And do you agree with me or not? It's absolutely crazy what he's doing at the moment. Is anyone going to stand up to him? None of the papers are. None of the mainstream TV. None of the radio. None of them are standing up to him. Well, I am. And I'm saying what he's doing is he's leading us into a war, but we can't even win. We can't win. Carl Dunbar, he's back again. Right? Dunbar, he should be called, because I think that's what he's been drinking. John, you're talking BS. Oh, yeah. Instead of you just insulting me, I've had other people calling me names today. Give me your solution and see if your solution, even if you disagree with my solution, is it as worked out as mine. I doubt it. Huh? Because you've got the brain of a peanut. I've got the brain of about 15 planets. I won't hold it against you. Ray McKinnon. Last time the troops were sent to the Ukraine was during the Crimean War. It was a disastrous campaign that brought down Lord Aberdeen's government. Hopefully, history doesn't repeat itself. Well, I'm very worried about it. Gary Reeves. I'm a Leicester City fan. I cannot buy a coffee, mate. Of course you can, you idiot. Don't be so tribal. And anyway, your team's rubbish. Sorry. Peter Stewart. My workers were laughing at me about Trump. I said, just wait and see who comes up trumps. Lisa says the agreement at the end of the Cold War was that NATO wouldn't encroach any further into Russian territory, into the east. You're right. And look what happened. Since 1990, people have poked the Russian bear and woken it up. Yeah, but it still doesn't justify what Putin did. And I'm not trying to justify that. What I'm saying is pick your battles, pick your fights, and make sure you've got hard men and women with you. And they don't come much harder than J.D. Vance and Trump. And hysterical reaction to what he said about the random country. It's just nonsense. Like Vance said, I didn't say England or Britain and France. I didn't say any of that. The papers have made that up. They're just looking for things to spin. They want to turn it into the Falklands. They've been told. They've been told to do that by this Labour government. Not by the Labour government. It'd be higher than that. Those who control us. They want a war. And could you believe it? Yesterday, Starmer was actually justifying the war. Oh, no, it'll be good for British industry. Look at all those jobs that are going to be in Belfast making weapons that kill people. Is that the talk of a socialist? I find that incredible. I really do. What's this? Put the shoe on the other foot. If Putin was occupying Wales, oh, here we go. This is Carl Dunbar. You'd think differently. No, I wouldn't. What if he was occupying Wales? And people said that to me. What would you do if someone came in your house and took over 2 rooms? Would you evict the squatters? It's kind of like so simplistic thinking. It's not even sixth form thinking, so it doesn't deserve an answer. It's like moron alert. What's this here? Lisa Edmonton says, oh, good grief, Carl. Let's use your train of thought here. If Russia started putting Russian bases in the USA, Canada, etc., do you think the USA would be okay with it? Thank you. I don't want to get into this argument. It's just ridiculous. Moonhawk, John, can you play that piano for the troops? No. Do you know why? Because it's not there. It's not there. It's imaginary. It's just a green screen. I wanted to put something else up today, but it wouldn't work. It's not real. It's TV. It's the magic of TV. A bit like everything they're telling you on the TV. None of it's real. They just want you to swallow the establishment pill. They want you to go to war. They want your kids to die. But it'll be good for the economy. I suppose Keir Starmer wouldn't just not said it'll be good for the economy, be less people on the dole. We'll send them off to Ukraine. They can all die in the trenches. It's just ludicrous. We're being pushed into a war. All we have to do is go back to Trump, apologise. I know he's been a bit of a prima donna himself. Apologise. Get the mineral deal done, and let's see if he can get a deal then with Putin. And then we can move on. Then we can let him try and solve the problem with Israel and Hamas. And also, if you think he's a bully, what was it like under Biden? Just remind me. What was it like under Biden? What would it have been like under Kamala Harris? What do you think? Do you think it would have been any better than what it is now? If you're watching or listening later, you can still send me your comments on Twitter and on Facebook and here at YouTube, John Gaunt TV. If you go in, if you subscribe, which is free, then you'll get all the alerts when I next go live. Because at the moment, it's a bit hit and miss when I'm doing it. Lots of domestic reasons for that. But from now on, oh, look at this. All Putin has to do is retreat. Carl, what do you do for a living, Carl? Please tell me. Please tell me what you do for a living. Because the limit of your intelligence is just makes me laugh. Zelensky has apologised now. He says he will sign the minerals agreement in any convenient form. Well, Richard, that's not strictly true. He hasn't apologised correctly yet. And also, he's still trying to put criteria on it. He's not in a position, I don't want to be a bully, but he's not in a position to negotiate. Because he'll try and do that thing, I've got the whole of Europe behind me. And then he'll turn around. It's like when you get into a fight, isn't it? When you're a kid in a nightclub, you think all your mates are behind you. You think all your mates are behind you. You turn around, they've all gone. They're all down the kebab shop. Trump will capitulate. Carl, you're just making yourself look thick. Can somebody look up on Facebook and find out what he does for a living? I've asked him to tell me. He's not telling me. So anyway, but Carl, look after yourself. You're entitled to your opinion, even though it's wrong. And if you think Trump's going to... The only way... There's no way is Trump going to capitulate and stand down against this. He's not. He's going to get what he wants because he wants peace. In that press conference, he was the only person who kept using the word peace. Zelensky was just taking the peace, pushing for more and more and more. Well, I don't know about you. We can't afford it. And we should say, no, mate, you've had enough weapons. You've killed enough people on both sides. I'm afraid Putin is the aggressor. He's a monster. I agree with you. But what can we do now to move this forward? Because the Ukrainian people want to move it forward, I'm sure. Doesn't everybody? All I do know, and from the bottom of my heart, is I don't want British blood now spilled. So when they go, oh, it's a peacekeeping force. If it's such a peacekeeping force, he's a HGV driver. Oh, you got a good job. You do a very vital job. Yeah. So I'm not going to slag you for that. So good on you. Where was I? We just now need peace. And we need to rebuild Ukraine. And we need, obviously, to control Putin. And we need democracy everywhere if we can get it. But sometimes you can't. You have to live in the real world, not the world of media pundits. That's the other thing. I've not seen any real media pundit, apart from George Galloway, who hardly ever gets invited on, and myself. And by the way, I'm available if you want me. They don't want people like me or Georgie Galloway on, because although we're different politically on many, many things, we say things that the mainstream won't say, and they don't like it. It's not that they've got D notices in place, but there's this collective thing about if you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not with us on this stupid idea of sending British people to die in Ukraine, you're not a patriot. That's kind of what Starmer's saying. Well, it's rubbish. It's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And anybody who thinks we and those European lightweights can actually beat Putin in a fight, you need your head tested. We can't. Because that's the ultimate truth. There'll be all this Georgia, and then Mr. Trump, can you help us out? They want him to provide the military backup. Why should he? Why should he? As if this is the way they're going to behave. They've all shown him immense disrespect. And it's also proved we no longer have an independent media in this country. That's me finished. I'll be back tomorrow with another podcast stroke live broadcast. Please join in if you can. Please tell all your friends about it. If you've got the video of this now, please tweet it out. Please tell people. Please say, look, there's an alternative there. I'm not saying I know everything. Well, I am. But I'm not saying that I'm necessarily right. Well, I am. But what I'm saying is it's different, isn't it? It's a different view. And I believe it. I believe it. I believe Trump is a force for good. I think J.D. Vance is a very, very intellectual man. Very intelligent. And I think he says the right things. And if you want to win, and you want to live in a peaceful world, you only get it through strength. Through strength. And when I looked at those 16, was it, or 18 people, as they all turned up in their big cars at Lancaster, where was it? Lancaster House. Did you look at any of them and think, he's going to protect us, or she's going to protect us? Yeah. She's a hard case. He's a hard case. No, you didn't, did you? And then when you find out now that not Angela, that's the other one, wasn't it? The German. Ursula von Leyen, yeah, useless von Leyen, has now suddenly found more money for defence. Kind of weird, isn't it? It's kind of weird that Trump's correct. And Trump said you're not paying enough. Now they are all paying enough. Well, they're not. They're now saying they're going to up defence spending. So he's kind of got his way already. That's a nice one to end on. Moonhawk on YouTube. I find it weird that Trump gets grief for trying to stop wars. Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, of course he should. But there's about as much chance of that, mate, as me winning Slimmer of the Year. Anyway, thanks for joining in. You know where I am. Try and tell all your mates about it. Thanks for liking it today. And thanks for your donations to buymeacoffee.com. And if you want to just become a member of my YouTube page, that's only 99p. That's as cheap as chips. Why don't you try it? See you soon. If you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey, hey, hey. Don't forget to tell them you love them. See ya.